Bengals taking on the Colts. We'll talk about this coming up next on the Wincinnati podcast.
It's an exciting time to be a Bengals fan.
I'm AC.
We got a special show as always.
The voice of the Bengals.
Hello, world.
Ford, Willie Anderson, Corey Dillon.
The name of this thing is called Wincinnati, and I'm not going to stop.
Talk to us about that roller coaster season.
I'm still gonna give you the same AJ.
I'm gonna work as hard as I can to be the best.
Always working ever since I met y'all, boy.
I gotta get your top 5 receivers. Bettors, man.
It was good. Watch out for us.
Watch out for us. Welcome to the Wincinnati podcast. I am Ace. He is Zim. Before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We are heading towards 5,000 subscribers. We need you to like this video, share it. We appreciate that. Hit that notification bell. But Zimmy, how you feeling right now?
Hello, world.
Hello, world. Let's get it.
Hello, world. I'm feeling good, man. I feel like we had some really good conversations throughout the week, kind of going through, in the aftermath in the aftermath of a very special game that I thought Jake Browning, performed under the bright lights where, a lot of people have faltered. So, I feel really good. I've been starting to make my mind curve around this whole, okay, all right, now this is how it goes and what's the next step? And so that's what we're here tonight to tell you guys about, like what we think moving forward, and I'm ready to get to it.
Yeah, speaking of Jake Browning in that game, coming off of Monday night, we'll talk about, was that Jags performance a one-off, or is that something that we could see every week? We'll also talk about, is that win the blueprint for the rest of the season in order for us to make the playoffs? Are the coaches now off the hot seat? And of course, we'll have to preview that Bengals versus Colts game coming up next.
Hey, what's up, Bengals fans? Mike here. I'm on the Wincinnati pod with Ace and Zim.
All right, Zim. A lot of people talking about the Jags game. Some people are saying, oh, it's just Monday Night Football. The Bengals had everybody watching them. It might be a one-off. We saw Brandon Allen do this. It's crazy. But you have, on the other flip side, you have a lot of people saying the Bengals are here now. I tend to be on that side. I feel like you're on that side. Jake Browning seems like a guy that could definitely do this right here. Are you thinking that this is kind of a every week kind of game plan, or is this just a one-off that just happened?
I think in terms of 32 for 37, yeah, that's the one-off. But being like proficient, being able to execute a game plan, I don't think it's a one-off. I was talking about that on the show last time, that like watching the JT O'Sullivan breakdown, just going back and rewatching different things I saw for myself, you could tell that he's played football in one and big. It's like this feeling that I see sometimes when you see like a quarterback. Like sometimes there are quarterbacks that we went to school with, or so in high school, whatever, that are really good, but they don't have like all the measurables that make them like this elite NFL prospect. But like those quarterbacks, like in our hometown, to people that are listening right now, whatever city you live in, a guy kind of like Jake Browning that you like, bro, he broke every record. Like he did, you know what I'm saying? And the way he plays and that even kill, I love the shot of him walking off the field and he didn't like give no high fives to no fans and stuff. People was like, dang, that was I'm like, nah, bro, locked in. Like, and it's one of those things where you can't get high too low. I think sometimes fans throw in the middle of the game, like they're like, fire this guy, fire the guy. You're not going to get these crazy reactions from Jake Browning. So like the sustainability of him going through his reads, the sustainability of getting the ball to where it's supposed to. And remember, he knows the offense. I think that's here to stay. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a situation where I think the game plan is the same, like you're saying. I think you definitely, whether you're playing the Colts, whether you're playing the Vikings in these upcoming weeks, I don't think that the approach to those defenses are different, even if they may be different defenses, right? Like, I think that you still want to run the ball. I think that you still want to get the ball to your weapons. I think that you make these teams adjust to you. If the Bengals were to look at it like this, with the Jags this last game, they wouldn't have tried to run the ball because the Jags were a good run defense. So I do think that the performance was legit. The one thing that I will say is that the defense is going to have to play a lot better than that in order for them to pull out these wins, especially with the yardage that they gave up. They stepped up in some points, but they're going to need to step up a lot more. So is that a one-off that they're going to perform that bad? I think so. I don't know if the defense will really look that bad in the upcoming weeks. Now, I say that. That's not to say that there aren't yards to be had and explosive plays that could be given up. But I think they have realized that from that Jags performance that wasn't their greatest performance and that they'll need to tighten things up the rest of the way. Do you think that that's the blueprint for the rest of the season? We kind of talked about that, but looking forward a little bit, what's exactly your blueprint for the season?
Running the football at a clip of 18 plus carries, no matter what, non-negotiable. Going under center, more condensed formations, less spread. I don't think they had any 10 personnel. I don't think they had any spread stuff the whole entire game. I think playing more closer to Jake's skill set. Like when you spread them out like that, you got to get the ball out and you got to have velocity. I don't know if that matches up what he wants to do. And I just thought like some of the stuff like protection, with Drew Sample in the backfield, like all these different things, those are the things that I think keep us rolling. Eventually teams will be able to say, well, we know that he runs boot off of this formation. And then, but the one thing that I like that Zac said at the presser was like somebody asked him about Jake Browning at the beginning of the game, like a lot of the first 10 throws. So the first 10 throws, I think he's like 9 for 10. And everybody was like, well, I mean, they had to build his confidence up. And he was like, no, I wasn't trying to build his confidence up. I was just trying to see what the defense was going to show, start to get an idea what that was, and then we're going to work off of that. And I think that, to me, that lets you know, like, that's what made Lou Anarumo, I think, special for us, is that he will operate on the fly. And if they're able to say, these are the things that we like, this is Jake Feisty, as I see somebody in the crowd. So Jake Feisty is going to be able to cook in these different things, and that's the formula. The defense, I don't know if there's a formula. I think on defense, the formula or the blueprint is stopping the run. I think that the scheme is going to allow a lot of passing yards to a lot of people. I just looked at Justin Jefferson in 2 weeks. He looks like he's going to be playing. I don't know that he was a full participant today. So we're going to get Justin Jefferson next week. So I think that they'll give up yards and they'll give up the tight ends. And I think some of the things that I think we are who we are on defense. But those games that we won when we were on that 3-4 game win streak, they stopped the run. I thought this past week they stopped the run. Jaguars ran for 2.8 yards a carry. And then once you do that, it falls right into Lou Anarumo's scheme. So these are all different things that are blueprints that I think that they can do.
No, I agree with you. I think a part of that, like you said, running the football, I think we've seen the stats kind of back that up. Targeting Jamar Chase, that's definitely one that has to be something that happens from here on out. I think the Bengals, I believe, are like 5-0 or something like that when they target Jamar Chase 10 plus times. That has to be a part of the formula. I think, like you said, the defense is what it is. Yes, they are getting Jetta's back, but if you can have that quarterback turning the ball over, and that's Gardner Minshew, that's the Vikings quarterback as well. If they can turn the ball over, that's something that this defense has feasted on, which we'll talk about a little bit later. The one question, though, is the heat now off of the coaching staff? I think it's slightly off, but I think depending on how things go moving forward will really determine that, right? Like Frank Pollock was a guy that a lot of people kind of talked about. Is his stock on the rise? Right now, the Bengals currently have a 5.3% chance to reach the playoffs. If this staff can get them into the playoffs with a wild card, I think that heat is off, right? If they struggle down this stretch and they don't win adequate games that they should, similar to the Steelers, then yeah, the heat is probably on. But right now, I don't think that the heat is on them, but that doesn't mean that the heat can't come back. What are your thoughts on the heat being on the coaching staff?
Same thing with me. Like, fire Zach, fire Callahan, fire Pollock guys still exist. You know what I'm saying? Like, no matter what. Like, to me, that's not real fire. This front office, kept Marvin Lewis for how many years? Like 16, 18?
Yeah, something crazy. 17
Something like
years,
that.
something like that.
You think that they would see Joe Burrow go down and say, "Yeah, let's get," like, no, like so. What kind of fire or what kind of hot seat are we talking about? Like, if we're talking about a heat warmer, okay, sure, but ain't nobody butt on fire in that building. I think the only person that's on or whose buns are hot right now is probably fucking is probably Frank Pollard. I think that's the only person to me. I don't think that the offensive line has evolved enough, and the players. And I always ask that question. I think I asked you this on the show: who got better? Like, you know what I mean? Who came here and you said, you know, like Volson was a guy that this is a guy that we like. Is he getting better every week? I think he's like up and down sometimes. You know what I mean? Did Orlando Brown come here and get better? I think last week he looked really good. I think he's had some weeks that didn't play to his strength. So it's like that to me are signs that coaching is like you need something there. Whereas I could kind of look around the board on the Bengals offense, or, you know, we could look at the defense and be like, yeah, DJ Turner came in as a rookie. But Jordan Battle came in as a rookie. And then look at the plays that they make. Look at this, like you could go look at it. But the offensive line for every single week, you get a bad week from Kappa, who's probably your best offensive lineman with Orlando Brown, right? And you get bad weeks from them. And some of the better teams, I think, in the NFL, I just don't think you see that from their best offensive linemen. And then none of the guys in the backdrop or the backups, Max Sharpings of the world, I mean, he's already, you know what he is. And, you know, Jackson Carman, has he gotten better? He's got weeks where he's inactive. And that's why, to me, the focus has been on that. And you're talking about a run team that was like damn near the last in the NFL. You're talking about an offensive line that just got your quarterback hurt for the second time. Now, Pollard wasn't there the first time, so you give him a pass, I guess, with that. But, like, you know, that's the person I think is on the hot seat. I think it alleviated some of the pressure off of Zach to say, can you win without Joe Burrow? And that's a big spot. That's not a bum team. That's one of the top. They were talking about the Jags being as a 1 seed, which isn't out of reach. They could still do it. You know what I mean? But that's a big win. And I preached that over and over. You had to show Joe Burrow, and you, more importantly, you had to show the team that you could make that win without Joe Burrow.
No, for sure. For sure. I completely agree with you. Let's switch gears to the Colts. What are we expecting from a Colts team that's averaging right now 30 points a game from the last 6? That's with a minusing a ugly Pats win. I think that you're going to expect a team that is pretty solid, right? They've showed some fight since AR went down. From me, I'm expecting, you know, a lot of Michael Pittman. You know, going into this, before I looked at the stats or anything like that, I haven't watched much of the Colts outside of them beating the Ravens and a little bit of the game last week. I assume that they were a running team. They are not a running team whatsoever. Yes, they have running backs. When you talk about Moss, Taylor's probably out because he just had the surgery. But they currently right now, the split said that they are 28th in terms of rushing offense in the league. They're actually passing it a lot more. They were able to do some things. They're not really an explosive offense. They have like 8% of their plays that are explosive. And a lot of their offense kind of goes as I kind of expected. It goes through Pittman, Downs, a little bit of Alec Pierce. Granson is a guy that I don't know much of, but he is a part of that offense. And then, of course, you talk about the running backs. And then Gardner Minshew is a guy that is kind of a little bit of a roller coaster, right? It's been a roller coaster ride for them. That's kind of what I'm expecting. I'm expecting a team that's not going to lay down. I'm expecting a defense with names that you might not be familiar with outside of Kwity Paye and DeForest Buckner, but they do have guys like Ubukum, who was a free agent that they signed, Ode Yingbo as well. And they are second right now in the league in sacks. So they're able to do some things in that secondary. They got a couple of guys there. So I'm just expecting a team that really is going to come in with a chip on their shoulder, kind of similar to the position that we're in, right? Like, obviously, we are in different – we had different aspirations, right? But this was a Colts team that lost their guy, and they're rallying around a guy in Gardner Minshew. And Gardner Minshew is a guy like Jake Browning with the chip on his shoulder, trying to prove that he could still be a starter in this league. What are your thoughts on this Colts team? Like, is there anything that you've examined, and are there any thoughts that you have on them and what we should expect from the Colts?
I think the Colts have a lot of different things that I think can do some damage. I think primarily on the outside, which is not what I would be more fearful of. You know, the Bengals have been getting killed so much, I think, with the tight ends primarily. Gardner Minshew had last week went 24 for 42, 312 yards. So they're able to do that. I thought the Bengals showing that they could stop the run could bode well for, you know, us coming up. I thought like the Colts defense, me and you were talking about this earlier about their secondary and the guys that they got on the back end. They actually got a guy too, Zaire Franklin, who's like second in the NFL in tackles. I think he's got like 131 tackles or something like that. So he's up there too. But I think a lot of that's because teams are kind of scheming to get to him. The Colts, though, up until last week were averaging pretty not that far from us, but yards allowed per game at 353. So it wasn't one of the higher, you know, ranked defenses coming into the NFL. I mean, coming into this matchup. So to me, a lot of the things that the Jaguars let us do, I think you'll have the opportunities to do so because the secondary isn't the strong point. I think the pass rush, like you pointed out with the sacks, there is going to be more pressure at different points. Also, but the difference that I thought too, and this doesn't bode well for them too, I wanted to point out too, is not only were they at the bottom of the league, I thought, in the passing yards allowed, but also rushing yards allowed at 129.3. So those are two things that I'm like, if I'm building off of what I did last week, to me, I hear like around the, you know, when we talk in spaces or we talk whatever, we talk about team, like who you playing in the competition. I don't care who it is at this point. If you get through 13 weeks of an NFL season, I have enough information to know about like your team. Just like on our end, I don't think our defense is as good as I thought it was. Like I know enough about our defense. They give up too many big plays. And I just think like this season too, the Colts have been one of the teams that have given up the most points too, or at the bottom of the league in that as well at 24.4. These are different trends that we know throughout the whole season. And part of that is them getting off the field too. If Gardner Minshew is in a rhythm, yes, there are some problems, I think. But I think the defense of the Colts is to be had, if I'm being 100% honest, just like I thought the Jags passing secondary was. But the difference with the Jags were you're talking about the second best run defense in the NFL. The Colts in the bottom five. So I think you have the opportunity to run. I think you have the opportunity for Jake to get feisty. It's some stuff out there that I think that they can exploit. And to me, I keep on saying this. I don't want the Bengals to get themselves in a situation where they're counting on Jake Browning to bring them back. And to me, that's where I think Jake Browning could kind of get exposed on his limitations with his arms when you're trying to throw hole shots or you're trying to split the football in tight windows when a team knows 100% you're passing. And that's what I worry when we talk about like the Ravens and stuff like that. They've never been behind in the whole entire NFL season. They've led every fourth quarter. You don't even know what they look like playing from behind. And that is a dangerous concept when you start talking playoff football. I think the same thing about Jake Browning is like there's limitations to him throwing. Joe Burrow has seen everything you could throw him in his his 4 seasons that he's played in the NFL. And we'll see. We'll see how this goes. But I do think that the Bengals have a really good shot. Some of the picks that I see around the league kind of got a half and half. Just so we know, the Bengals they did open unless this line has changed. The Bengals are a 1.5 underdog or whatever at home. So essentially, Vegas is saying that they think that the Colts are probably maybe a 4 points better team. But the fact that the Bengals are at home, 1.5 underdogs. So we'll see how that goes. So that's not a wide margin. I think the teams, they're evenly matched in some areas. I didn't even talk about the Colts. The Colts have weapons on the outside that I think can pose a lot of problems. If Awuzie is coming off his best game. So I do like that too. And I think he matches up pretty good with Downs. I don't know if anybody we have matches up really good with Pittman.
I mean, there's a reason that I wore this jersey tonight. The running attack when it comes to Mixon and Chase Brown, this is one that they could really have a follow-up performance to the encore that they had on Monday night, right? Like this is a situation where I'm expecting the Colts, to give up a lot of rushing yards. I am expecting a guy like Jamar Chase, especially with them not having Juju Brents out there, him being banged up the last couple of weeks. They have a 7th-round corner out there starting right now. He's probably their best guy. They're going to live based off of that pass rush, and the Bengals are going to have to combat that, right? We saw a lot of screens last week that the Bengals used against the Jaguars. I think this is one of the best pass rushes that we've seen. It's very under the radar, but I think it is something that the Bengals are going to have to use that balanced attack to beat. I think when it comes to what to expect from the defensive side, we know you kind of talked about tendencies. We know who Gardner Minshew is, right? Looking at some of these numbers, right? The Colts this year are 21st in EPA against the blitz, and there's a reason for that, and it's Gardner Minshew. He's responsible for 57% of the fumbles. He will give it up if he is sacked. But when he is blitzed, he has a 59.9 completion percentage, 5.3 yards per attempt, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 77 passer rating. When he's under pressure, 47.2% completion percentage, 6.1 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 68.4 passer rating. What that says to me is you got to get to Gardner Minshew if you're on defense. If this is a defense that's going to give up plays and stuff like that, you got to get to Gardner Minshew. Getting to him is going to do wonders for this defense. It's going to help them out. And when Gardner Minshew has a clean pocket, that's when he's able to operate. But he's very erratic when it comes to his pocket presence on what he can do. Sometimes he can see ghosts in the pocket, and that gets him in trouble. Defensively, I found this was kind of interesting. 78% of the time they send 4 rushers. They're one of the least blitzing teams in the NFL. And they run the most zone in the NFL. Number one, 73% of the time they're running zone. They only run man 10% of the time. I don't know how those numbers, they don't add up to 100, but somehow I guess they must be running variations of both. But apparently they run the most zone in the league. But to me, our defense, the biggest thing that we have to do is force those turnovers. Obviously, we kind of talk about the defense, and, the Colts are probably looking at it, especially with Shane Steichen having a potential coach of the year kind of season. I saw watching the All 22 on Baldy's breakdowns, he had Pittman run a fake wide receiver screen that they caught a touchdown on. So I know that this defense is going to have to be in his bag. Zen, what can this defense do, bro, to combat this Colts offense?
I think you hit on so many different points on like how you got to go out. You got to go after them and you got to pressure them. And I think that the Bengals are going to have to funnel a lot of different stuff to their linebackers. I thought the linebackers had one of their worst games I could remember the past 2 weeks to me. I thought that Logan Wilson at coverage was poor in the Pittsburgh game. And I thought Jermaine Pratt in his gap selection and how he's diagnosing plays is just like off. I think they're going to have to scheme up some different things so that they can free them up and be able to let them just feast on like simple tackles and feast different things to them. If it's to the outside, make sure that we're disciplined on just setting what we want so that we can just funnel Pratt and Wilson directly to guys like getting out to Zach Moss and different guys like that. So I come back to that same thing of just stopping the run. I know it seems like simple, and it's not, but when they do stop the run, I think everything that Lou Anarumo does is geared towards stopping guys like Gardner Minshew from going 8. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't think that anybody could really throw on us if they stop the run. And that's that's what made Lou Anarumo so special. And that's where it starts with me. And I've seen Zach have some great games. I've seen him have some not so great games. So I know that they're capable of doing it. DJ Reader's coming off his best game. So them boys got to do it. I feel like Murphy's starting to really fall into his role really good. And there's guys on that defensive line that I think are getting a little bit healthier, like Sam Hubbard, that can help out a lot.
And I think there's guys on the offensive line that they could potentially attack. Raymond, obviously they do have a strong offensive line. You talk about Smith, you talk about Nelson, who, depending on which metrics you look at, 33rd team and SIS, their team isn't as high on Nelson as PFF. Then you got Kelly, you got Freeze. So they've got some good linemen, but the weakness is over there on the side where Trey Hendrickson is at. Potentially DJ Reader can make some plays. So that's definitely going to be interesting. It seemed like getting into some of the keys to victory, the Colts are on a 4-game win streak right now. The keys to victory, one of the ones you mentioned was stopping the run. Give me another 2 for them to be able to pull this victory out.
I think they had to stay very consistent to what they did this past week. So one is, like you said, stopping the run. Second one, being able to run the football on our own to take some of that pressure off of Jake Browning. And then the third is all the guys that are supposed to be guys, all the guys that are guys, they got to be guys. Like T. Higgins, that was your 1 week to come back into an NFL setting, get the speed up. I'm expecting a big T. Higgins game. Everybody's been talking about Jamar. I expect a big T. Higgins game in Jamar. I expect a very big T. Higgins game. And why? Because I've seen him do it before. And anytime that there's like a big game where they need clutch throws or clutch moments, if you really go back in your memory bank of like who did that, like in the AFC Championship game 2021, that's T. Higgins. Like, there's games where when we played the Jets going up against Sauce Gardner, it was T. Higgins in the first half of the game. There's so many games that when Jamar went out, T. Higgins was leading the league. Like last year when Jamar went out, he was leading the league in yards and receptions in that 4-week span that he was out. And a lot of people just forget sometimes how good he is. I was telling somebody earlier, they were like something about injuries. And I was like, it's so crazy to me. If 25 other teams in the NFL lost, I'm going to go 28. 28 teams lost T. Higgins. That's all you would see on your timeline is about T. Higgins is out. Bro, that game ain't count. T. Higgins missed them 3 games against some very important games. We lose those games, and nobody really even mentions it that much. And now that he's back, I'm like, bro, he opens up so much on the field for Jake Browning, and it's so messed up that Burrow couldn't, have that benefit with him, at that Ravens game at the beginning of the game, and then moving forward to play like the Steelers, like bro, like they didn't have him. So I think that the guys that got to be guys, and I'm gonna just call out like T. Higgins. I think he's due for like a big game, and I think he should. And the matchups will be presented to him. That their cornerback, their cornerbacks are going to be able to double Jamar Chase, or they're going to opt. Yeah, but generally they're going to put their better corner on T. Higgins, and I just think that's the one-on-one that Jake Brown has got to go with, and I think he's going to take it.
Yeah, if you guys are listening, please be sure to subscribe to the Wincinnati YouTube channel. We appreciate that. Hit that like button. That also helps other Bengals fans find the channel. I think 3 keys to victory. One for me is always going to be winning the turnover battle. These are 2 teams that are actually pretty good about that, but the Bengals do have the edge on that. Obviously, getting to Gardner Minshew, getting pressure on Gardner Minshew is going to be paramount. And I think the third one for me is establishing a balanced attack on offense, primarily through the run. This is a team that's Achilles' heel is defending the run. That's one of the reasons the numbers may be inflated for their pass defense. But I think if you have that balanced attack, it is going to work perfectly with each other, and it's going to help those pass rushers not get to Jake Browning, because the last thing that you can do is go out there, like Zimmer said in the past, and drop back 30, 40 times and just let one of the top pass rush defenses just really fire off on a guy like Jake Browning. So it's very pivotal for them to be able to do that, play with the lead, like Zimmer saying. use that run game to complement the pass and run out the clock as well.
Can I say that their tackle tandem is one of the best ones in football? You could go look at PFF grades or whatever you want, but Bernard Raymond, and then you got Braden Smith on the other side. Those are some of the 2 top graded tackles in the NFL. So our edges are going to have their hands full. So when you were talking about getting pressure on Gardner Minshew, I don't know if they're going to have to manufacture it from other areas, but it's going to be tough just to say, I want Trey Hendrickson or whatever to go crazy, and a guy like that I was talking about, Bernard Raymond, he's only allowed 2 sacks the whole entire season, and he's played, I think, damn near every snap, 691.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. They do have they paid a lot for that offensive line there. One thing that I want to talk about before we hit fantasy, which one was the bigger win? Jake Browning versus the Jags or Ryan Finley versus the Steelers? That's the Corvette night. Which one was the bigger win? I'm gonna go first, and I'm gonna say which one was better.
That's tough. I'm gonna just tell you this. I'm gonna tell you this. The ramifications of the Corvette game, I don't think were as extreme.
They weren't.
They weren't. It was like,
but
nothing.
The meaning of it, the meaning and the significance of it was huge. So you know what? I'm gonna take the Jags game because I feel like if the Bengals are able to make a run to the playoffs, that's gonna be where the run started. Was the Jake Browning game where he showed the world, like, okay, the Bengals do have something still here. Like, we're not dead yet. And I think that says a lot. Although I love the Corvette moment, it was cemented in history. I think it was the changing of the guard. I'm gonna live in the moment right now. I'm gonna live in the moment and hope that this Jake Browning kind of win is something that is gonna be like a light is gonna go on or something.
Right.
Like this might be a 30 for 30 moment right now, happening right now.
You kind of took exactly what I was gonna say. It's like, it's kind of hard to say. Like, say that the Bengals don't make the playoffs, then I'm gonna immediately say Finley, like, all day. But if they were to make a playoff run, then you'd be going back and looking at that Jake Brown again and saying that's what started it all.
But I think, like, on the flip side, you could say the Von Bell hit, like, from that game, like, you could say that changed the culture from the old Bengals to the new Bengals.
Oh, for sure.
Just off of that game, like, it was a lot. I still remember exactly what I was doing. I didn't even think that game was going to be live. I started pulling out old PlayStation 2 games while I was on the live, and then the next thing I knew, we had a crazy game that night. But I think it's a dope conversation to have. But like you said, until the season is done, we really don't know. One thing that I want to remind you guys is about the Bengals post. Jake and Mon right now, they're getting a lot of new viewers, so we appreciate you guys. Definitely be sure to check out their show. It's on the Wincinnati YouTube channel as well. Make sure you hit them up, check them out. Dope show. Zim, you had something you wanted to say? Are you reading something?
Yeah, I just reading some trolls comments. I was like, what?
But nah, definitely check out the Bengals post with Jake and Mon. They do some dope work over there. Glad to have them on the brand. So definitely check those out. But we're going to get into some fantasy football takes. So if you are here for that and you're getting ready to figure out what you got to do this weekend in regards to this game, we are going to tee up our fantasy starts, sits, and sleepers for the Bengals versus the Colts. I'm going to kick this one off, man. I'm starting Jamar Chase, man. I think the path that Jamar Chase is on, him having a conversation today talking about that he wants to go for the franchise record of 112 receptions. He's already on pace to, I believe, break that record. He's clearly going to try to get that record, and I think he's kind of getting into a little bit of a leadership role, and he knows that.
Did you see what he said today in the locker room?
Yes.
Where they asked him about the record? That's a wild boy.
That's why I'm starting him, dog. That's why I'm starting Jamar Chase. I mean, that's a layup answer. But I got a feeling my partner is gonna go somewhere else with this. So I'm gonna take Jamar Chase. What about you?
I'm gonna go with T. Higgins, man. I'm gonna stand on it, bro. Like
standing on business.
I'm standing on business. You standing on business? I'm standing on business. I just feel like at this point, T. Higgins has got to be able to say, I'm out of whatever we were in before. I got past the hamstring. This is a moment where my quarterback needs me. This is a moment where I got to be able to take advantage of these one-on-one matchups. I just don't think that the Colts are going to award him, Jamar Chase, as many opportunities as he got last week. I think he'll still get a good amount of targets, but I don't think that you'll see anything where he's getting single coverage at any point in the football game. And T. Higgins has to take advantage of that. And I think Jake Brown is smart enough to do it. So I'm going to start T. Higgins. I like him. We were talking about some parlays before the game, before we just did this show. But I like
we'll get into those. We'll get into those a little later.
I like the T. Higgins. The sit, I guess that's easy to say sit or Smith. Let's say I'm going to sit. Oh, that's nasty. I'm gonna sit Mixon. I'm gonna only sit Mixon because of this. I think that for the spirit of the show, I think he's gonna have a good game. But I do think that because Chase Brown played so well last week, I think that they will maybe ramp up his carries a little bit. Maybe might take away from him a little bit.
I love y'all, man. Look at me in the camera. I love y'all, bro. I rock with y'all the long way, but I'm sitting the Bengals defense this week, fam. I'm sitting the Bengals defense this week, bro. I mean,
can I switch? Because that's a good one. Can I switch? One of my partners in my fantasy football league said, bro, I'm about to go get Bengals defense. I was like, don't do that.
Nah, not this week, fam. Not this week. And the reason that I said
he said and next week. I said, don't do that. Justin Jefferson next week too. Like, nah, bro.
Jefferson, Minshew's coming off of a 300+ yard game. You know, I gotta see them step up, man. I'm not saying that they're gonna play bad this week. But right now, if we getting close to the fantasy championships, right now, the way they playing, I can't trust it. If this is like the last week of your league, I just don't know if I would do it. Sleepers. I think I'm going to go where Zim was going with the Mixon thing. I'm taking Chase Brown right now. If you could probably get him in any fantasy league right now. If you need somebody that can step in, I think bye weeks are over now. But if you need somebody that can step in, give you 8 to 10 points, maybe 15 if he sneaks a touchdown in there, depending on if you're in a PPR, half PPR, standard league. I think that Chase Brown is a guy that can at least get you 8 to 12, maybe even 12 points this weekend, even in a situation where I feel like Mixon still scores. I think both of them can be productive against this Colts defense. That's going to be my sleeper. Zim, who is your sleeper?
I guess he's not a sleeper to us anymore, but maybe you're listening to this and you're not a Bengals fan, but I'm going to go with Tanner Hudson. We call him T. Huddy. I just think T. Huddy is good for a good 40, 50 yards every week now. I really feel like he's a solid tight end that is going to give you 4 or 5 receptions and be like right at that medium in the NFL, and I don't think a lot of people are expecting that.
No, for sure. I think T. Huddy's a good one because he still hasn't scored a touchdown yet. You know that touchdown has to be coming soon for sure. That's going to get us into our over-unders. Shout out to our people that are out there. This is the Wincinnati Bettors Guide, the Vegas props. I sent you a couple earlier, so I'm going to go through some of these. You let me know. I actually throw some other ones in here.
Can I say that we didn't mention anything with Tyler Boyd real quick, but I will say this. Because of that stupid trick play last week, I do think that the Bengals will make it a thing or issue at some point to call something for Tyler Boyd in the red zone just to make sure.
So you're taking the anytime touchdown for Tyler Boyd next week? Is what
I do. Telling me. Yep, I sure would. And I bet you that probably gets you like plus 6 to 8. Like, I don't know. Like, he doesn't
The
score that many.
anytime Tyler Boyd touchdown right now is plus 300. That seems
Oh,
like
damn. That's not as
pretty
good as I
decent.
thought. I thought it was gonna be like plus 600, but still, that's still good. Plus 300, I can make you some money. I think that if they get to the red zone, I think that they're going to call his number, bro, on the strength of we don't want you feeling like, like you're not helping the team. And I think a touchdown
For
always
sure.
helps out. All right,
got you with this one. Over and under. This is real Vegas lines right now.
Okay.
Zach Moss, 72.5 rushing yards.
I'm gonna take the under on that. If Travis
under, so
if Travis Etienne only had 40 something, I'm definitely not taking the over on those 70 something for Zach Moss. I'm taking under all day.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Over or under Joe Mixon 62.5 yards. I feel like that's easy money. I'm taking the over. The worst run defense. I know you kind of, I don't know though. You thinking it might be a little bit of a split.
I'm taking the under.
Taking the under on Mix.
But it's because I just think that they're going to throw the ball to Mixon. I think that Chase Brown is going to start, like, bro, what he had like 9 carries last week, and Mixon had like 60 something yards. Like, I don't, unless Mixon can break one of them, I don't know, man. I'm taking the under, and it's not because I don't think that he could do it. I just think that now that Chase Brown is into the fold, I just think that that's going to be a big part. If you told me total yards, passing and rushing, yeah, I'm going way over that.
Oh yeah,
but that was rushing yards though, right?
Yeah, that was just rushing yards. Okay. Here's one. Jake
yards,
Feisty.
90.
You called him Jake Feisty. Over or under 231.5 passing yards for Jake.
That's crazy. I wouldn't play with that. I wouldn't play with that line one bit because that's right where I think he would be at. But for the spirit of I just went under on Mixon, I'm gonna take the over on Jake Feisty. Giving up what the Colts are giving up every single week, passing yards like on a weekly basis. I'm gonna take the over on the Jake Feisty.
I'm gonna take the under here, and I feel like it's because the Bengals are gonna run the ball. I still feel like he could throw 225, had 2 touchdowns, but I see this being a Chase Brown and Joe Mixon game, and I'm kind of mad they don't have Chase Brown on the player props for rushing yards, because I feel like it would be super low and it would be automatic money that could be made there.
But I'm gonna take. I think Chase Brown gonna have like 60 yards himself, like minimum.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be. I think we
run for a total of like 150, right? You get 60 something. You say you think Mixon 60 something, and then you get like 20 from Browning.
Yeah,
that's 140 something right there.
Over or under? Let's go to receiving yards here. So let's take a look at some receivers. Let's see what the ops receivers are talking about here. I feel like Michael Pittman is an easier one, so I'm gonna go with Alec Pierce, former UC Bearcat. Pierce.
He had a big catch last week too. Big
over or under 29.5 yards, because some people say he's not utilized over there.
I'm gonna say over because I think they're gonna build off of what they saw last week, and I think primarily you might get him matched up with Mike Hilton. I'm gonna take the over on that one. Yeah, I know that people listening are probably like, damn, does them think they're gonna win? Like, I do think the Bengals gonna win.
29.5 yards isn't much. This kid is gonna be back in Cincinnati for the first time. He's probably gonna have some of his family watching. You already know when like people come back and play where they play their college ball, they always try to turn up. I think the over on 29.5 is easy money. Talk to me though about more easy money. Let's go with
I would love to see Michael Pittman on
Tanner Hudson. Over or under 23.5 yards.
Over, baby. Let's go. Over all day.
I was gonna say the T. Higgins one, but it seemed like the T. Higgins at 36.5 over under is free money. That's crazy.
I'm cooking. That's like crazy. Vegas not peeping how that was just a ramp up game for T. Higgins. I think T. Higgins due for 100 plus. I really do. I wouldn't bet 100 plus, but if you show me a line like 30 something. Yeah, I'm all over it. Like once you showed me that before we went on, I was like, yeah, I gotta play that.
Joe Mixon, over or under 3.5 receptions?
I'm gonna let the crowd. I want people that are in the. If you're listening to this podcast, we appreciate you. Make sure you go on to YouTube and subscribe. If you're on the YouTube right now, I'm gonna go. I want to see what the people are saying on this one too. 3.5 receptions to Mixon.
I'm taking the over too.
I'm gonna go with the crowd because this is a tough one to me.
The
3.5 for a running back is up there, bro.
Think about it though. Like the Colts are gonna be a team that's gonna have pressure. You know, we know that they can get there with their front four. How do you combat that? Screen passes, dump offs to Mixon, stuff like that. So I think he's gonna be able to get that over in that case. He had 6 receptions last week. So I think he can get possibly 4. But you do make a good point when you're talking about maybe the snaps are a little bit different this game with him and Chase Brown. But I'm going to take that. So that's going to wrap it up for the over-under. I know that we're going a little over on our time here. So I am going to toss it to our man that cooks, and that's going to be our man Tim. They're actually getting ready to drop a new wing. The CTB wing is coming December 8th. Stay tuned. It's going to be a buffalo and lemon pepper flavored wing inspired by Atlanta. CTB
Buffalo
is
and
apparently,
lemon pepper?
Yes, apparently CTB has tried them. He loves them. They will be available December 8th, but let's kick it to our folks at Midwest Best Barbecue. Shout out to Midwest Best Barbecue, and those Uno wings taste even better this week after 149 yards on 11 catches. That Louisiana dry rub is hitting a little different after that. But the CTBs are going to be here very soon. Tomorrow, we're recording this on December 7th. This is Thursday. That means tomorrow for lunch. Swing by 669 Justice Court in Loveland, Ohio. Let them know Ace and Zim sent you. Let them know that you're there for those CTB wings. Let them know that you might also want to pick up a gift card for the holiday season. Yes, they are going to be selling Midwest Best Barbecue gift cards, and they were just featured in the Bengals Rule the Access Live, actually catering for CTB. So you know that the food is fire. You know it's like that. So definitely be able to stop in and let them know Ace and Zim sent you. If you are watching right now, please leave us a comment, subscribe, like this video. That helps other Bengals fans find us. Follow us on Twitter. I'm at New Stripe City. He is at Zim Hude. On Instagram, it is at Zim_Hude. It is at New Stripe City. Follow the Wincinnati Pod Twitter account. We appreciate that, at Wincinnati Pod. Definitely some cool graphics and information that you're going to be able to find there on Instagram and on Twitter. This is a must win.
You seen that Joe Mixon graphic that we got out right now? The 6,000
fire
6,000 club. I love that.
But I'm asking you a question, man. Is this a must win? Is this a must win for the playoffs?
It is. It is. There's 3 teams that are ahead of the Bengals. It's the Colts, the Browns, and the Steelers. Those are the 3 games that they have to absolutely win. There's no buts about it. If they were to lose to the Chiefs or lose to the Vikings, it doesn't hit as hard. But those 3 games, they have to win. And I will take it and say this. In their minds, every single game has to be a must win. There's like no exceptions to that. Can I say, I know CTB has the chicken wings, you know, the flavor or whatever. If CTB was going up against Michael Pittman, that would be a beautiful matchup. If you love football, like when when CTB went up against DK, I think the Michael Pittman one is a physical one that would have been special. I wanted to ask you though, is this a must-win for you? Do you think this is a must-win?
Definitely is a must-win. I agree with you. Every game from here on out needs to be looked at as a must-win because you just never know where the chips are going to fall. So control your own destiny. Do what you can do. It would be crazy if this Bengals team could end up, 10 or 11 wins, like based on the adversity this season. So yeah, treat every game like a must-win.
When I look at the simulator, which I never do, but this guy Brady, who I listen to a lot of his information that he gives me, we went through so many simulations. If the Bengals win the 3 games that I outlined against the Colts, the Browns, and the Steelers, all like in most of the simulations that you could come up with, like 90% plus, they go into the playoffs with 9 wins if they beat those 3 teams. Like they literally, there's some wild scenarios where they wouldn't, I think, but odds are in their favor, bro.
The odds are in your favor. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Wincinnati podcast.
It's an exciting time to be a Bengals fan.
I'm AC.
We got a special show as always.
The voice of the Bengals and Ford, Willie Anderson, Corey Dillon.
The name of this thing is called Wincinnati, and I'm not going to stop.
Talk to us about that roller coaster season.
I'm still going to give you the same AJ.
I'm going to work as hard as I can to be the best.
Always working ever since I met y'all, boy.
I got to get your top 5 receivers.
Better, man. Watch out for us.